We met on Monday to discuss what was going to be some of the themes with Seb. And I think Seb gave us an overview as to what he would like. And he said that it should be upbeat, it should be optimistic, and we should be positive, and it should be full of energy and enthusiasm. And I did try, and it was not easy. And I think the reason why it was difficult was, being a scientist, I care deeply about the truth and to how we reason with facts that are based on objective facts. For the world has changed since 2008 with the financial crisis, which was shaped by a toxic mix of greed, gluttony, globalization, and unethical behavior. Which brings me back to this sharpened era of post-truth, which is gnawing and corrupting our intellectual integrity and damaging the whole fabric of democracy. It's beginning to poison us. Rationality by emotions, diversity with nativism, and our liberty by a drift towards autocracy. It's infected and vilified experts as ill-intentioned cartels rather than a source of verifiable information. We have to proactively face up to the challenges, which I am hoping we will discuss during this session, of how to take this thing forward. Now, we know that language is very, very important in creating meaning and understanding. But a lot of the times, words can morph meaning in the process of expressing ideas and takes full control of the speaker and the meaning. So before we hear from the panel, I would like to make clear some really muddy terms that always pop up in these types of discussions. They're always very complicated words. I think they're very complicated. But they're always coated with the cultural perspectives or biases that we have. And I think one of the most critical words, this works, it doesn't work. If we could go to slide number 1, I would appreciate it. But magic. Right, there we go. So I wanted to define the famous term bullshit, because I think bullshit is extremely critical. We have to get that clearly in our minds. And I think there are different types of bullshit that one could think in terms of. The strong words. There's one bullshit which I constantly get when I'm at the pub and someone realizes I'm a physicist, and then they start telling you how Einstein was wrong, and they give you lots of theories that they propose, or they send you emails of their concepts as to why they think that's the case, which is okay. I think it's not bad. That's kind of bullshit. But I think the most insidious type of bullshitter is the person who does not care about the facts. All he or she cares about is the ability to communicate a concept or an idea, to convince the individual. And I think that is a very, very critical thing. It's our relationship to the truth. And it's the decimation, it's the dilution of truth and our relationship. So I think that part is very, very important, where facts are not important, but convincing emotionally the individual what they think. And then there's the other thing about the liar. I think the liars are okay, they game on. I think they appreciate the truth. They know what the truth is, but they try to avoid it. So there's some sort of relationship they have with the truth, or an understanding they have of the truth. So I think the second term, which is the bullshitter, is very, very important. And that goes very nicely to post-truth. So if you go to the next slide. So the definition of the definition of post-truth just exemplifies this, where we're just not worried about objective facts. They're not important. You get lots of facts and you glaze over. Students do that a lot of the time in my class. Lots of facts, and they think, where's the narrative? Connect it to my inner being. Give me a story where you can embed the facts. And I think the post-truth syndrome or the era is where facts are becoming less important, a bit like the bullshitter. So this is a subset of the bullshitter. Imagine having this and then coupling it with the rise of technology and social media. There are some serious potential breaches of ethical problems we end up when we do that. I mean, there's the problems of privacy, of security and safety, of ownership and intellectual property right, trust, and the fundamental human rights are breached, as well as the possibility, if you blend these items together with the rise of technology, is the exploitation, the discrimination, the inequality, the manipulation, the propaganda, the popularism, the racism, the violence, and the hate speech that accompanies this. So I think once you couple that, you end up living in this bubble, this information bubble, which only filters in to your domain of understanding whatever you feel is appropriate or you feel is good for you. And then you get this filter through all sorts of social media, which feeds this through. And what you end up with is a filter. I mean, if you do a Google search, for example, for anything, and I do a Google search, our results will be completely different. Because what the algorithms do in any search, it doesn't have to be Google, it could be any other search engine. You do a search, it looks at your history, and it customizes the results according to what you like and what you don't like. So in a way, it's reinforcing whatever prejudices or whatever confirmation biases that you have. So to some degree, it's drawing to information that aligns with your worldview, and that's just reinforcing. And if it gets information that does not realign, what would you do? You would say, well, I don't believe that. I'll go to the next click. And you'll click away, and there's a vicious cycle of actually drawing in what you feel and what you think. And this goes on, if we can go ahead, the next slide. Right, which is fake news. Now, if you have this confirmation bias, then you're absolutely susceptible to fake news. You will go and you will click and you will understand and feel that it's the right, because it's reinforcing your prejudices to some extent. So it feeds on fake news. And of course, there's also another notion of clickbait, which actually has a certain title, an interesting title you could have, and you just click on it. And what that exploits is something interesting, which is the curiosity gap. It's enough information to prick your curiosity, and then you actually want to know, and it may take you to a page that actually looks like a reputable web page, but it may not as well. And then there's obviously the alternative facts. I mean, I think this is another interesting example where I think there is no alternative facts. I know what that means to some extent. Facts are facts, and that's an end on it. These are objective facts as could be. But I think you can, to some degree, have different realities, different narratives, that then you choose or you pick and choose whatever facts you have, not alternative facts, but whatever facts you have to actually reinforce your narrative. Now that, I think, is an interesting thing which we could possibly explore later. So I think there is this notion of just facts, I think, and alternative narratives or alternative histories that one could look at. And I think if you look at this, I try to highlight this, that one is a subset of the other. But I think the most important thing is the bullshit and the truth and the dislocation of those two things as much as possible with these intervening membranes that exist. And whatever permeates from one to the other, you can feel there is a dilution of something very, very precious, and something that we value a lot is being lost if we're not careful. So I just want to leave you with this quote about a little bit of an idea about what I think I feel, but this captured beautifully. It says that our generation cannot give up on truth. Lies are seeds of violence which threaten to fray the bonds of our common humanity unless we take this task seriously We are sowing the wind, and we will reap the whirlwind. So I think it is something very, very critical and very important that we have to take seriously on a philosophical level to begin with, and try to sow the seeds of transformational change within cultural mindsets. So I think it's very, very important to do that. So I think I will stop. I'll try to highlight some of the critical words that we will probably use throughout the discussion. And we can now have a clear picture. And we'll look at each one of my panelists. Will try to view this through their own prism and try to articulate their perspective on it.